purpose of backlog refinement is for us to look at the stories that we have on our backlog. We want to make sure that our backlog is healthy. So we want to look at it, refine these stories, make sure they are well written, and make sure that they are refined, that they have acceptance criteria, they have descriptions, they are estimated as well. And once we're done, we can prioritize these stories, prioritizing them, making sure that we put what is important on top and then what is not important below. So once we're done with that, this will really help us during our sprint planning. Okay, team? Okay, so let's look at this story. So once we click this story, we will have details about this story. So let's make sure that we have acceptance criteria for this story. Okay, so let's take a card. Okay. So for this story, you say we want to study and understand Introduction to Scrum so that I can understand Scrum framework. So this is more of Introduction to Scrum. So the product owner, I can call him Michael. And what would be the acceptance criteria for this story? Like what can we do on this story to consider this story done? Like what is the acceptance criteria? Then the PO will tell you that acceptance criteria is to study the introduction. Introduction. This is not you knowing this. This is you asking the product owner to tell you the acceptance criteria of this story. So introduction to Scrum. Studied and understood. So this is the acceptance criteria. Acceptance criteria is more of, if you guys understand how this is written now, it's just more of considering this done. So you've studied it and you understood it, then I consider this done. So if you come back on this story and you're moving this story to done, but you have not understood what is written on the introduction to Scrum, even though you've studied it, I won't consider it done because it did not meet the acceptance criteria. So there is two parts of this acceptance criteria. It means you need to study it and then you need to understand it. So now we've written the acceptance criteria. That's one of the part of the story. The second thing we want to write on the story, let's say we call this A. We'll use Jira one of these days just to be able to, so that you guys can see that as well. Please, when I'm done with this one, feel free to ask me a question. Now we want to write the description of this story. We want to make sure that this story has a clear description. Sometimes team goes in an easier way by just copying the summary, because a story, normally what shows you on the story is the summary of the story. There is still a space where you put description, where you actually kind of in detail describe the story, So now you can write as much as you want on the description. This story is for you to study Scrum fundamental course and understand everything about the Scrum framework. So you can write as much as possible, as much information as team want to put there, because you don't want tomorrow when the team opens that story and they realize that they don't even understand what that story is all about. And then they start asking, what is this story for again? What is this story is for? Team is always like the development team, they're always Always those kind of things happens always. You will see them. If those stories don't have clear description and clear story, if they don't understand it, they will be thinking, oh, what is this story for again? What is this story for? You don't want that to be happening with your team. You want them to look at the story, look at the description, actually understand what they need to do and what is supposed to be done on the story, so that when that thing is done, because sometimes a team member can tell you, oh, this story, I haven't finished it, I still need to, let's say I told you to do understand, the introduction. So the acceptance criteria was to study it and understood it, like have a clear understanding of this. And then the team member say, oh, I have not studied the principle as well, so that's why I still leave this story on in progress. You're not going to leave it in progress because you're the Scrum Master. You understand that this is the acceptance criteria of the story. It's just to study and understand the introduction. So you don't need to go to the principle. So you have to say, no, but this is the acceptance criteria. If we don't have a story for the principle, for you to study the principle of Scrum, then let's create a new story for that. But for this story, we've met the acceptance criteria. So it's done. Right. So the acceptance criteria is done. So now I want to invite you guys to this. So let me give you a link. Let's see if we can do this. I'm gonna paste a link on our Zoom chat. Please click that link and see if I just shared my screen. It takes you. Now, when Abby did, you won't see Abby's number. It will hide because she doesn't want her number to influence you. So she has estimated. Uchi, I'm still waiting for you, and Chichi, I'm waiting for you. So
what am I supposed to? How
you see the numbers? There's the numbers order. Just click any of the card that you think that is the estimation. Okay.
Okay.
Once you click that, now there is a pass. Did you guys see the pass? Where you have the numbers, that is also the one say pass. That is one with question mark.
Yeah.
I'm gonna click pass myself. Now, why do we use pass? The reason why you use pass is a team member there may be a story that a team member does not really understand and don't want to estimate. It doesn't even want to ask question about it, but he doesn't want to contribute on that estimation. He can use the pass button just to pass on it. And now, since we've estimated this one, now we can review the result. Let's see. So now we flip the card. So Chichi, you estimated 2, Abby estimated 1, and Uche estimated 1 for the story. And now what happens is it gives us average of 2. Okay, so planning poker will give you the average of that story point. So now we consider this, you see, now we put 2 in front of that story. So we consider that story as 2 story points. And then as a Scrum Master, sometimes, like with this now, I won't really bother asking. But if the numbers is different, let's say Abby, Chichi, you went to 5 and Abby and Uche went to 1, 1. I will ask you, why do you think this story is 5? Because you may have a different perspective why you think is a large story over everybody that was thinking is 1. And then maybe your own insight will now make Abby and Uche realize that, oh, this is actually true. Are we supposed to do this in this story? Well, like, yes. Okay, then they can actually change their card. Uche and Abby, try seeing if you can change your card to 2. Try clicking your card again. I made that possible. You can also, if you set your planning poker, you can also make it not possible for them to change there. So nobody can change after the card is flipped. But they can also, from your insight, you can change the team member's mind on that estimation based on the insight you gave, made them understand that, oh, this may require a lot more effort. Okay, now I'm going to start from the beginning to explain these stories. If you look at what these stories are, they are called Fibonacci sequence. These stories are in Fibonacci sequence. Fibonacci sequence goes by 1, okay, 0, then 1. Then 1 plus 1 will give you 2. Okay, now 1 plus 2 will give you 3. Now, 2 plus 3 will give you 5. 3 plus 5 will give you 8. 5 plus 8 will give you 13. 8 plus 13 will give you 21. 13 plus 21 will give you 34. So that's the way Fibonacci sequence goes. Okay, it goes 1, 2, 3, 5. So you won't see, sometimes you go to teams that are new to Agile, you'll be seeing 4, 6. That is where you know that you have work to do. You need to explain to them that story points goes by Fibonacci sequence. It does not go by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. No, it goes by 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, and then it goes. But one of the things you need to be careful is that 8 story points normally will take you close to 10 days, a team member, 10 days to finish, 10 days effort to finish. And the sprint goes for 10 business days, 2 weeks. So you definitely don't want your team to be estimating 13. Any story they are estimating 13 story points, you want to make sure that they split that story into 2. So your story points should be ending on 8 so that it can be contained in 2-week sprint. Unless your company is doing 1 mode sprint, then it's okay to estimate a story for 21 story points, right? 1 story. But if your company is doing 2-week sprints, you want to make sure that you estimate whenever a story goes over 8, even at 8, you need to start thinking, team, is there anything we can do to split the story? See, the job of Scrum Master is to ask questions and think for the team. You're not doing all these things, you ask them. They were like, yeah, I think we can split it. Maybe, you see how I wrote that acceptance criteria that you want to study and understood. Maybe 1 story would be to study. The second story would be to understand it. Now we can now split the story. We split the acceptance criteria. We split the story into 2. So that's what estimation is all about. Now let's try again and estimate the second one. You guys go ahead and give me your estimation. So now, as a Scrum Master, what I would do is this. I said, okay, this is the second story team. Before the team comes for the estimation, you must have added all this story in lines, and then you understand it. So you said, team, this is second story to understand introduction to Scrum so that we can, understand Scrum framework. Any question on this story? Is anybody not clear with this story? If no question, everybody say, yeah, we're clear. It's okay, team, go ahead and give me your estimate. So you guys can go ahead and give me your estimate. Awesome. Thank you, team. And then I will do past. And I can flip the card. Great. So this story is average of 5, but it's not. I want to see how I set this. I want to make sure that I didn't set it to always give me the highest. Okay. 5 plus 3 plus 2 divided by 3. What is it supposed to give us? This is 10, right? 10 divided by 3 is what? 3.3. So this is supposed to give us average of 3. Let me see my settings.
I have a question. So when we're clicking, are they supposed to be saying something?
No. The team? No, they're not supposed to be saying something. They will keep quiet and click.
No, like the numbers, are they supposed to say something before we click them? Because how do we know what to click?
Okay. Give me 1 second. I want to understand. I'll come to your question. Would you like to allow players to see their velocity? Yes. Okay, let's see. Yes. Would you like planning poker to calculate the score? How is the score calculated? Yes. Would you like the story timer? No. Yeah, you can also put the story timer. Yes. How much time will you like for each story? Let's see, 2 minutes. Team velocity. Let's see. 23. Would you like to allow players to change their vote? Would you like to auto-fill the card after everyone has voted? Auto-flip the card after? Yes. Are you also effort pointing? Yes, please deal me cards. No, I'm not just a dealer. Okay, let's see, save. Okay. So, Abby, your question is, do the team has to say something or do a scrum master have to say something?
No, because you're saying to click on like one of the numbers.
Yes.
I'm confused about are we just guessing?
You're not guessing. The developers are not guessing, Abby. So what happens is that these developers understand these stories and they work on these stories. So they know the kind of effort it would take them to work on these stories. So each story point represents something. And I know that's where that comes in. Like when I joined my team, I did a workshop for them to make them understand more about story pointing. So I can also do that maybe one of these days. I will explain to you guys. So one story point, okay, means that this story can be completed easily. Okay, there is no string attached, there is no risk, there is no unknown. I know this thing. Once I start this story, I can finish it in one day. That's what one story point stands for. Okay, means if you give me this task right now, I can just do it and get it done. There is nobody I need to talk to. There is nothing that I would have to think that I don't know. I've done this story before and I know how to do it. That's story number one. Number two, it's still I can do this story independently, right? I can do it independently. There is no unknown, but there is a little things I need to click more. There is stuff I need to add. There is some trees I need to do. There is some, if there is a link that I need to put on the website. So it may take me a day or two to get this done. So I still have to do a little bit more work on this story. So this task you're giving me, so that's 2 story points. 3 story points, there is a little bit of unknown. I may need to talk to the team, ask some questions, get some information from them. I may need a screenshot from a team member. There is some unknown that I need to kind of do a little bit of research to find out. So those are what makes up the stories. The stories are, the effort are based on some unknown and some time that it will take you to finish it. So now each of these story points represent those things. So 5 story points mean this is a big story. It may probably take me like 6 days to get this work you're giving me done. This particular story, it will take me 6 days. And if it's going to take me 6 days, there is some unknown that I don't know that may even take me longer. So I'm calling this story a 5 story point. So the same thing applies to 8. Man, this story will take me 2 weeks. This work you're giving me, for me to finish it, is going to take me 2 weeks. Let's give Abby, you do video editing. There is some editing that you will do right now. You know that you can finish it in a day, right? There is some editing you will do. You know that this editing will take you like 4 days. So you have to do like maybe 3 hours or 4 hours and then come back to it again, come back until you finish it. This is your expertise. You know how to do that. The same way developers know how to do all their work, their tasks that are being given to them. So they know how long it may take them. These story points represent those efforts.
Okay.
Does that make sense? It
Yeah,
represents
that makes
those
sense.
efforts to them. So when they are saying is 1, means it's a dating, it's just gonna be done. When they say it's 2, means it may take me like 2 days to get this done, but I don't really need. There's nothing there that will be surprised.
Oh, okay.
When they
So
say
the
it's 3,
numbers are
yes,
just based on like the level of understanding.
level of effort and
Effort.
understanding.
Okay.
Level
Okay.
of effort and understanding. Okay.
Okay.
So that's kind of it. The same way, like if you go to plate your head, somebody can say, "Oh, this is a complex head, so I'm gonna charge you more money," right? So
Mm-hmm.
those things are more effort. The more you go to 2, you're going to more effort. 3, you're going to higher effort, right? So that's what it stands for.
Okay.
Does that
Thank
make
you.
sense to everyone? Okay, so now you can also add time. Like you see, I added a timer. So saying that each story 2 minutes. 2 minutes means allow every team member so that you control your time as well. Because this planning is time boss, or this refinement, you time boss it. So maybe you want to spend only 1 hour on this refinement. So you can say each story, let's say you guys need to estimate like there's a 10 stories. You put to 2 minutes, that's 20 minutes of estimate. And then there may be some questions that team member is confused and he can put this question mark that he still have questions about it, right? So let's try the third one just to see how our timer works. So you see, the timer will start counting and I will say, okay, team, if you do have a question, please ask. If you don't have any question, please, can you go ahead and give me your estimate? Right? And then so please go ahead and give me your estimate.
Why can't I see anything? Sec.
You can click the same link that I sent you before. You can click it again if you've left the link. Just click it again, it will still take you to this place.
Okay, so because this is really taking.
So now we see, because I'm here, I haven't clicked mine, and you can put this automatic flip. So once I click mine, it will automatically flip. Now I don't need to flip it anymore. So if you put that, it will automatically flip and show you that. Now you see that it said it's 3 because the average is 3. So this 3 story point means this is 2 plus 2, 7 plus this. So it divided, it gives you an average. So it gives you 3. So kind of planning can make the average for you. Now Uche said 5. Then I can go ahead and say, Uche, why do you think that that this is a 5 story point?
Okay, yeah, it's a 5 story point to me because facilitating Scrum ceremonies, when it says ceremonies, that entails the sprint review, the sprint planning, and the sprint daily stand-up. So facilitating them, learning how to do all of them will take me like say one day each to start to understand them, like 3 days to understand the 3 of them. So I have to put a lot of effort, to a lot of study, a lot of practice to make sure I become very conversant with these ceremonies. So it's not really that it's a cup of tea for me.
Sounds good. Team, do you guys think Uche, like, what do you think about what Uche just said? This is, there is a lot of work that he mentioned that this is Scrum event. This is not just one ceremony. You're talking about like sprint planning, sprint review, retrospective. Do you think this story is still, do you still believe that is still the two justify the story, Tim?
Okay, I
And
think
then,
spending 1 day on an event is pretty much.
okay, so if we have 4 events, how many days are you gonna? So you think that we can do all the 4 events in a day?
In 2 days.
In 2 days, okay. Sounds good. Okay, so team, so that is 3. So you don't, as a Scrum Master, you're not forcing the team to change their based on Uche's opinion. Uche's opinion is his opinion, and let the team decide. If they say, you know what, Uche, I think you make sense. I think I will move to 3 instead of 5, and then they will move. It still give you an average, right? And you say, you know what, I think I will stick with my 2. I think that is pretty much. It shouldn't take us that much. That's fine. This is how team is estimating. Now, look at here. What this shows you is the total of estimates you've done so far. So you see you did 3, you did 2, and 5. And that gives you, right? 8, 10, right? It gives you 10. Now, remember that when I was doing setting, if you look, I added our velocity. What is team velocity? Your velocity stands as your capacity, your average velocity. So far, team average velocity is accumulation of your velocity. Maybe you can do like 3 sprint velocity. So for the team, they've had experience, they work in the past, they've gotten like how much the story point they were able to do every sprint. Then they add those 3 together and divide it into 3 to be able to get the average of what they normally finish every sprint. For team that doesn't have a history of velocity, I will show you guys how to calculate the capacity, okay, to be able to use that. But for team that already have history, that they've done sprint before, you're not the first sprint they've done so far, you can take that from the Jira, they has average velocity, and you can use it. So that is what I call 23. That is the maximum velocity that the team, story point that the team can take into sprint. So if we finish estimating all the story, let's say we have a lot of story and it's go more than 23, I will ask the team, are you guys comfortable taking more than your average velocity into the sprint? Or is there a story here that is not really that priority that we can pick out and then take the rest to the sprint, right? This is during the sprint planning. But right now, I don't need to bother about the average velocity because what we're doing is just estimating the stories. So that's just what we're doing on the planning poker. Any question again on the estimation? Any question?
Yeah, well, I won't say it's a question. I'm just trying to see if I really understand this part. So is this like, it looks more like a voting platform?
That's what it is. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a voting platform. It's just what you use to just give everybody the opportunity to cast their vote and say this is what they think the effort is required for a story. If you don't do it this way, another way you can do it is to tell them to send you those story points directly private to the chat. So go to the Zoom and pick me and send it to me directly so that nobody else see it. The reason for this is so that imagine if you say it's 3, because Uche has already seen that you said it's 3, he can just say it's 3. But this is give everybody opportunity to contribute to the story, right? To see what they think about the story without anybody influencing them. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, so that's kind of the idea of this. So you're gonna use this board to do your story. All you need to do is just set it the way you want it. The company already, like, sometimes it's already set, but let's say there is something you want it to be card, you want it to auto flip whenever everybody voted. You know, anybody that didn't vote that say, oh, I don't know what to vote, you can tell them, okay, click pass. So that way you know that they voted, right? Instead of manually flipping it. And you can also manually flip it even when everybody has not voted, right? If somebody is still delaying so much and they be like, are you voting? And you can't hear the person, okay, well, I'll flip it and then we'll go to the next one, because you have to work with time, right? So that's that. Are we clear on this one? Can you guys say that you kind of have an idea now how stories are estimated?
Yeah.
So when you go to interview and you've been asked a question of, oh, so how do you do your estimation? Oh, I use planning poker to do my estimation. So what I do is that before we estimate stories, I will go into the planning poker and I will just take all the stories that we have in our board and add them in the storyboard. You see that, add stories in the storyboard in the planning poker. And then when I have the teams, I'm just gonna go one after the other and allow the team to estimate. And if there is anyone that is actually their number is way higher than the rest of the team or lower than the rest of the team, I will ask the person to kind of explain to the team why they think, like, to justify their story points. And that way the team can make a better decision in their story pointing, right? So that's just pretty much it about story pointing. Use planning poker to do those story pointing, and it's super easy, right? Okay, so let's see